Because if you go into there, you do that job for 600 on a Thursday night, it works. But when you're trying to do jobs all the time, then you wonder why you have no money.
Yeah. Here's the breakdown. What does it cost for me to pay my labor to do this job? Then at that point, you are going to factor in a 30% overhead. Then you're going to factor in 20% profit.
We're all doing this because we're not doing this to pay rent this month, right? If you are, then go ahead, do whatever, that's the hustle in the beginning. But we're building these businesses to have them for 5-10 years and have nice exits, make millions of dollars. It's called Blue Collar Millionaire.
America's backbone was built on blue-collar business grit, grind, and muscle. This is where you stop working for the business, and the business starts working for you.
Blue Collar Millionaires back again, Chris and I. We're going to talk about cash flow, management, and pricing your jobs. So many guys in the group asked, I don't like this post where I see it in other groups more. It's like, what are you guys charging for this? They're relying on someone else to tell them how they're going to basically price their business. Yeah. You got to know your own numbers. Of course, you got to know what market's charging and stuff like that. Yeah. What do you need to get deep into?
I mean, when I'm pricing my services out, and as you grow, your pricing model should change. I mean, inflation kicks in. The dollar doesn't have the same spending power as it used to. I remember when I first started driving, I was buying gas for 89 cents a gallon. And now it's like close to $4 a gallon. So that shows you what inflation can do. But you need to build it based off of what it takes for you to run your business. And I would highly suggest as well, if you're, very low overhead, still working out of your garage with just a few guys, that you go ahead and calculate in a 30% overhead margin. So here's the breakdown. You're going to sit there and say, what does it cost for me to pay my labor to do this job? Yep. That's your first cost of goods sold, is your labor. If you have materials being left on site or used in it, then materials is the second thing that you have to calculate. Those two things together is going to be your cost of goods sold. Labor and materials. That's across every industry. Those are the two things you're going to have. Then at that point, you are going to factor in a 30% overhead. Then you're going to factor in 20% profit. So if I've got, let's say, $1,000 for easy math is my job, and I've got 20% profit I want, so I got $200, and then I got 30% overhead, so that's $300 out of the 1,000. So I'm at $500 right now. Okay. 50% of it is pushed. I've only got 50% of that I can spend on labor and materials together. So either my materials is going to be, maybe it's 25%, and then my labor is 25%, or my materials is 30%, my labor is 20%. Whatever the ratio is, it does not matter. That's how you build your pricing model. So now it doesn't matter what your competition is selling it for, because what happens when you've got enough profit in there? Now you can afford to send your team out for training and education. You can afford to put them in the nice vehicles with the best equipment. You can afford to put them in good-looking uniforms and wraps on your service truck so that you look professional in your rolling billboard. You can afford for the marketing. You can afford for the automation like the AI service on your call center. You can afford to be able to do team events, and you can put in prizes and gifts for the achievement since you have a performance-based pay. You can afford all of these things, and who benefits? The customer benefits. Yeah. They get better service. They get a better product at the end of the day. Why? Because you have happy technicians, because they're bringing great paychecks home to mama or to daddy if you got women working.
Yeah, and we talked earlier about guys who low ballers and all this, but if you're a W-2 and you're doing it on the side, you're just like trying to make money. You're not doing this. I get all that. But if you're saying to yourself, I'm actually going to do this, I'm going to leave this job, I'm going to run this business, you have to start forecasting all these numbers. Because if you go into there, you do that job for 600 on a Thursday night, it works. But when you're trying to do jobs all the time, then you wonder why you have no money. Yeah. And everything starts costing more and everything's going up. You have to factor all those things in. And even when you're doing overhead, I think for guys, specifically Northeast, colder things, you got to know how many days you're going to work. People are like, oh, well, my truck payment's $1,000 a month, so that's $12,000. Yeah, but if you only work 8 months a year, you got to take that $12,000 divided by 8. That's right. Really what you need to be making enough money to cover that.
That's right.
Because we saw that there was a lot of posts coming through. People like, man, I had a rough winter, because they're counting on snow and everything. When I did snow, I always factored that I wasn't going to make $1 on snow. It was just bonus. I remember we had a couple big winters. I was basically taking all that money. Wow. It's all profit, right? And if you don't factor in how many days you're going to work, you can't really get an accurate overhead. But you got to know it. And then the other thing with labor, people will say, well, it's $20 an hour, it's 2 guys, it's $40. And then they just factor it in. You got to figure out tax. What's it cost you to employ them? They're paying taxes, but you're paying taxes on your side. You have workers' comp. You got to figure that all in. This is just easy spreadsheet. Because you're like, oh, okay, that guy isn't costing me $800 a week. He's really costing me like $912 after everything.
And if you're not good on this, hire a CPA and say, hey, I need you to help me understand what my overhead cost is going to be this year. And then they're going to ask you those questions if they're a good CPA. And if they're not asking you questions like, what's your rent? What's your utilities? Do you have any payments on vehicles or equipment? If they're not asking you those things, then they're the wrong person. But any legit CPA will sit there if you say, I need help building my overhead so that I can understand how to price my services, then they will ask you those questions. They'll stick it on a spreadsheet and you'll know exactly what it costs you. And then you can figure out how many jobs it takes you to be able to cover that.
And then the other thing is paying yourself. A lot of guys, they use their business bank account like a piggy bank.
Yeah.
They don't pay themselves salary. They didn't do it this month. They do it the next. They're not making any money.
Yeah.
And then they start doing things like, well, hell, I get to pay for my truck off it. It's a write-off. They just start creating things in their head. You need to be paying yourself because at some point you want to replace yourself.
That's right.
So what will that cost? Is that going to cost me 60 grand, 80 grand, 120 grand as you grow? You want to be paying yourself, taking a salary or disbursements of some sort. And then when you pull apart, you have that money set aside. You have to make that 20% profit or whatever after everything. Now you have a sellable business. You're creating machine. We're all doing this because we're not doing this to pay rent this month, right? If you are, then go ahead, do whatever, that's the hustle in the beginning. But we're building these businesses to have them for 5, 10 years and have nice exits, make millions of dollars. It's called Blue Collar Millionaire.
And here's the deal. This pricing strategy is so important because this is what's going to help prevent you from getting into a cash flow crunch. Absolutely. Especially if you have materials. I mean, your roofers, your siding, your HVAC, your plumbing, your remodelers, all those individuals, your landscape design guys that are building patios and dropping sod, pool, you have to be priced right, but you also have to watch the cash flow. So if you're spending, $25,000 over here in materials and your project's going to take you 45 days to complete, you're fronting $25,000 if you're not getting a deposit, and you're financing that for that customer all the way up until 45 days later. But you still have overhead clicking. You still have your labor that's going to want a paycheck at the end of each week. So how are you going to afford that in between? This is the cash flow, cash coming in, cash going out. And on 45 days, you got cash going out and nothing coming in. So how do you fix it? Deposit's one. You take a deposit down. Maybe you do it in phases. So you take draws. Banks do this all the time with contractors. They go through a phase, they take pictures, report what's been done, and then you take a draw from the bank for an additional to cover what you've just paid. So that way you're not riding out 6 months with no income.
Right.
The third thing is maybe you leverage vendor accounts. We do this in a supply company. Yeah. They're typically a 30-day net pay. So it gives us a chance, especially on commercial work.
We have 45 days. So we can float the cost of that windshield, because we're going to get paid on day 28.
We're not financing it
and
now.
we don't have to pay them we're not
the vendors,
at that point.
The supply house is financing it. Or what did you use in the gutter business with Jonathan?
Factoring. Factoring is a little different. It can cost you some money.
It costs you some money, but it still helps on the cash flow. It's another tool.
You have to have that cash flow. I mean, for me, it was just, I will literally have millions of dollars on the street. I'll be up at night like, this is scary.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money. So you want to have that money to do the flow. But for residential that's commercial.
That's commercial.
If you're doing with Walmart, they might be on 60-day pay. But you can have a combo. You could have Walmart client and then you could have houses or whatever, residential.
Yeah.
To me, residents, they should be, especially on projects, you shouldn't be under money on them. It doesn't make sense.
No.
I mean, most guys are doing that, but you should have, we all know contractors are like, they're taking from Peter to pay Paul. They're like basically taking one deposit to cover some old stuff.
Right.
And that's why they don't come to job. I think you should have it all structured out so that money's slightly ahead of what you do. Then you do exactly what your job. Then you never have cash flow problems on that.
Yeah.
But you have to factor that all in. I mean, for me, it was complicated because I had condo associations. Some would pay in 10 days. Some would take 30 days. I had customers, some that pay in 90 days, like a huge building operator in the Northeast. You can go into QuickBooks and look at average day pay. And that's what I was doing. I was looking exactly what it was. I was creating my schedule back when I had no credit and cash flow issues. I was looking at who paid me fastest. I was doing them first.
Absolutely.
I'd do them on November 24th. I'd have a bunch of money on December 4th. That would like float me into this crazy season. So it's just like you can find a way out of on anything. But I mean, for residential customers, that's you should just have a structure on that each one. I don't want to be putting up money, or it has to be so quick a flow.
Yeah. In most services, a 25% deposit. On our mold work, we get 50% deposit. I mean, we've got bigger tickets. It's 10, 20, $30,000 tickets. We get 50% up front if it's not being financed. And then we collect the 50% on the back end.
What type of terms do you have with your vendors? Like some of them, you could build those out.
It's 30 days.
Yeah.
It's a 30-day term. It's building business credit. I used to just do cash on delivery. And then I was like, honestly, I did it not thinking about cash flow. I did it because I wanted to build business credit, but it helps with the cash flow. And it took me out of being the bank to my customers on my commercial side of things. But on the residential, that 50%, that takes care of a lot of it. But my commercial, we don't collect anything up front. We do wait. It's a 30-day wait. And then if they say, oh, well, we didn't get the invoice, now I'm waiting longer than 30 days. When I realize that it's past 30 days and we call and we're asking what's happening with the invoice. And that is a real life situation. That does happen all the time with commercial.
We used to look at so many companies, and I see companies that are so behind on vendor payments and different stuff like that. They just mismanage cash flow. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a huge percentage of companies that have enough need and have enough work go under because they can't manage their cash flow. I mean, if you're really bad at it, you should hire a fractional CFO. Have them come in and help you out.
It's an investment, a fractional CFO. All these people, I mean, are you trying to stay small? No, staying small is dangerous. So make the investment to help you grow safely and consistently.
And for you new guys, if you're not dealing with vendors and you're doing COD or you're a new builder, a new roofer company and you're getting it, do that a couple times, show them that you're doing work, then go back to them, ask them for some terms.
Right.
What can we do? Hey, I'm doing this. Oh, well, we could do this. Then when you build on that, go back to them again.
Mm-hmm.
Keep not pushing that relationship, but you should be getting it and then building it with other people. Everybody should be doing that. We talk about that with John Federa and Paul Childers. They're always talking about building business credit. Start before you need it.
Absolutely.
This will save you in cash flow crunch. Guys, we'll be back next week, bluecollarmillionaire.net. You can go on there. You can learn about our Blue Collar Millionaire dinners. We got one today. We got at least two 9-figure business owners. One with an exit, one that could. Another guy, a friend of ours, is having a massive exit right now in the process of it.
Yep.
I mean, these are the kind of people we come. But then there's guys who are just en route to getting there. Younger guys. We like to have just great people.
It's a mix.
Chris and I vet them and everything. Those are at the dinners. And then you can always get in boardroom elite. That's where Chris and I, every Thursday, 2:00, we talk about strategies that works, stuff we know works, and we help you guys with your problems. Get some feedback. The group is great. We have incredible members in that group. 3 of them are here today.
Yeah.
Build the community. Guys, see you next week.